Okay, so in this video, we're now going to look at how to click on the next crate. So that will be this one here, and have a bun appear there. So the functionality is very simple. We're going to add a collider box to this. We're going to make sure it's the right size. We're going to add a script for this crate. And when we click on it, it will instantiate not just one object, but two, the top and the bottom of the bun, and we'll have the top and the bottom of the bun appear here. So let's actually rotate this a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. There we go. Okay, so that means first we need to prep this object. So let's go ahead and bring the bun bottom and the bun top into the scene. And now we can just move these around a little bit. Now, eventually you're going to click on the hamburger bun or anything on top of it to make the whole thing move. So we'll put a box collider on it for now. We'll have to think about how that works though, because when you have multiple items, each with a box collider on it, it makes it a bit of a mess. So we'll see which box collider we're going to use as we get closer to that stage. So both of these for now we will add the box collider, and it's no big deal. We can always remove the component if it's not necessary. So you just select the object, select add component, and it adds the box collider. So again, select the object, add component, physics, box collider. Now what we want to happen is we want to be able to click on the bin and have it appear there. And actually, these don't look like they're lined up quite right. It's a little bit hard to tell from this angle, but I guess that's good enough for now. So this will be, let's rename this, Bun Crate. We never did rename the top one. That's okay for now. Add component, physics, box collider. And again, this box collider is way too small. And again, as I said at the beginning, if I'd done the box collider before I duplicated it, this wouldn't be something we'd have to do over and over again. But if you're new to box colliders, it doesn't hurt to see the repetition. Click on Edit Collider for the dots to appear. So some of them are a little bit more faint than others. The actual depth doesn't matter because as long as there's not another collider on top of it, as long as it's within the perimeter, you'll still be clicking on it. Because again, we're not looking at something bouncing into it at a certain height. We're just looking at an overlay with the mouse. So when it comes to the mouse click and colliders, it's much more forgiving. Okay, so rinse and repeat. We added the box collider. Now we need to create a script. So right click, create, C#, and this will be bun underscore crate. And what we'll do is we'll click on the bun crate, put the script on it, and just like this crate over here, we're going to make this crate be aware of the buns. So this is aware of the burger. This will be aware of the buns. Speaking of which, what we can do is we can take the model, put them into the models folder since we now have the prefab. And let's just bring those prefabs here. I don't think there's anything else we have to, or actually bring them into here is what turns them into prefabs because it saves all those components. So we can, actually we'll leave them there since it shows the location of the bun. So what's going to happen now is we click on this and the bun will appear there as soon as this is made aware, this crate is made aware of the bun. So let's go into that new script, so bun crate. And once again, a reminder, if you want to use one script for all the crates, you can, because what you're seeing here is this pattern where you have this redundant code, void on mouse down, void on mouse down, void on, well, that's the patty, but for the bun crate, we're going to do the same thing. So you do have redundant code, but it also, like I said, makes the code per script more simplified because you're not checking for the name of the script. So again, void on mouse down. And we want it to instantiate the bun, so we need to public transform, and we'll call this bun top obj and public transform bun bottom obj. Again, the obj is arbitrary, but it helps me remember that it's an object when I see this in the name of, when I see it in the list, I'll know that these are objects. So we go back to our crate, and there's the objects. So take our prefabs, bun bottom to bun bottom, bun top to bun top. And now what we want to do is we want to have those objects instantiate. So we're going to use two instantiate commands this time. So instantiate what? We want to instantiate bun top obj, and it's going to be instantiated for now at this position. Again, eventually we're going to be able to put multiple ones here, but we're just getting the basic functionality to place, and then we'll work on eventually, like I said, creating a mini inventory system. Looking ahead, we'll probably use like a list type variable to do it, but we'll get into more on that in a different lesson. So the bun top, here's the coordinates over there. So we said it's a vector 3, and it is negative 1.53, so F at the end because it's a decimal, negative 0.252 F, again, it's decimal, and negative 5.539 F as in F, so vector 3. And just double check, was it vector 3 or new vector 3? It is new vector 3. Sorry about that. New vector 3. So again, what is being instantiated? Where it's being instantiated. This time again, we're using actual coordinates and not just saying to use the coordinates of an object. And then the rotation. So we want to use the bun top's own rotation. I'm going to copy this. You have to be careful when you copy because you got to make sure you make all the corresponding changes. But I want to really reiterate that you're just repeating this. You're just tweaking it for the bottom. So bun bottom object, new vector 3. Let's click to see where that one's located. So that's negative 0.46. Perfect world, these two probably should be lined up exactly the same if the top and the bottom are the same size, but good enough. The height is the same, so that sounds about right. And the depth would be wrong. So, although this does show, actually this one shows it higher, so yeah, we will change it. And so this is negative 6.95. And again, I just kind of lined that up on the. I just kind of lined it up on the screen. You certainly can try to get numbers that are a little bit cleaner to work with. Okay. So we saved it. So now the crate has a collider. Just double check again. Yep, because you can see the dots going out to the sides. So a crate has a collider of the appropriate size, has a script. These two objects are linked to it. When you, in that script, if you click on the mouse, these objects that we're just pointing at get instantiated. Think this should work. So we'll delete these. So we click on here, and sure enough, it appears. So the next thing is we'll then click on the hamburger. Well, we have to code it, but you'll click on the hamburger and it will appear over here, which causes a complication because we need to move the cheese over. So I might just set it so that you actually have to put the cheese on here instead of on the grill like you really would. So maybe you just cook it here and then you put all the toppings here, because what would have to happen is the hamburger would have to move the cheese when you click on it, and that means one would have to be a child to the other, which you can do in C#, but I'm trying to avoid that kind of complexity. Okay, so the bun appears. So now what we need to do is when you click on the hamburger, we want it to appear over here. But right now, when you click on the hamburger, it gets cheese put on it if that value is set to cheese. So let's go to patty.com. So here's the on mouse that instantiates the cheese. So actually, I just noticed something. We did this wrong. Cheese is already there. If you haven't clicked on the cheese, it doesn't check for that variable. So my apologies. I will have to modify the previous video and make mention that I made a mistake. So what we needed to do is we set up that variable, but we don't check for it. I was going to say that I thought that went a little bit too quickly. So if, so we're in patty.com, if GameFlow is where that variable is declared. So if GameFlow dot place cheese equals y, then it should place it. So click on the hamburger, cheese no longer appears, click on the cheese, cheese does appear. So we fixed it just like that. So my apologies if there's any confusion. I didn't actually check for the cheese value. Now I did, so now it works as it's supposed to. Okay, so what I was getting at before I noticed my mistake is that we need to check if we're placing cheese on the hamburger or if we're moving the hamburger. So I'm going to set it up that the bottom line is once the hamburger is here, if you click on it, it's going to move it if cheese is not set to yes. And like I said, I think I'm going to change it so the cheese gets placed over here. So what we're going to do is we'll copy this, although we're going to get rid of most of it. So if place cheese is set to no, then we want that hamburger to get moved. So get component, transform, position equals new vector 3. Where are we putting it? Surprise, surprise, we're putting it where that bun is being placed, and we want to place it on the bottom one. So we want those coordinates, which makes sense. So this code places the bun, click on the patty, should move it to the same relative coordinates. Might have to be tweaked a little so it's not inside the bun, it's actually like laying on top of the bun. Okay, so this says that, so this script is attached to the patty. You click on the patty. If place cheese is set to no, then what happens is the hamburger will be moved. And what we do is we click on this. Now the thing is, it doesn't check if the bun is there, so it's not quite right. So it does move it, that is working, but we want to make sure it can only do that if there's a bun there. So sometimes we have to, when we're designing, we specifically have to think of how do we not want the player to play. And it's not that someone would be malicious necessarily, but they might not be thinking. They hit the bun and suddenly you have a bun sitting on the board here. So we place the hamburger, we place the bun, we click on the hamburger, perfect. So I think what would happen is what we're going to do is we'll click on the top bun to make it complete. And by clicking on the top bun, that's where we'll make the calculation as far as, like I said, we might have to remove some of the colliders or something to make the final functionality work. Now, this getting placed on the hamburger, again, since it's looking at the hamburger's location, it should work. And sure enough, it did. So good example where, sorry for jumping around, this, as I said, rather than using a constant, it is using the position of the object that it's getting placed on top of. So when this position changes, so will the placement of this instantiated object. Okay, so as you can see, as you start to build, you get more complexity because now we have to make sure people actually have a bun there. And can't really do that until we have the inventory system set up, which is coming closer because we've got the basics here. So we have the ability to place a hamburger, place a bun, we place the hamburger, we click on the hamburger, we click on the cheese, and then we're gonna click on the bun to move it. So let's do that. Let's click on the top bun to move it over, and then what we'll do is we will end this video because at that point you've now made a complete hamburger with one topping. So how would that work? So the top bun needs its own script. So right click, create, and we'll do C# script, and we'll call this top bun con for control. And no, you don't always have to use that. I just like to indicate what it's doing. So And we might also create a script later on for the bottom bun because say you say you have the choice of making hamburgers or hot dogs and you choose a hamburger bun, but you need a hot dog bun, we would want you to be able to throw it away. So maybe left clicking on the bottom bun throws it away, that kind of thing. So we want to take our bun top, take our top bun script, and I think all we're going to do is clicking will move the object. So let's open up that top bun con. And again, I'm going to do on mouse down, so it looks like it's a good thing we added the collider box. So on mouse down. And we're just going to move the position. So I think we can actually swipe the one from the patty. Because we want to be placed actually just above that. So what I did again is I just copied, since the bun is being placed on top of the patty, then it would make sense that you're going to have very similar coordinates. It'll be a little bit higher on the y-axis, but again, because of the positioning of the bun when it was originally created, it might already be adjusted accordingly. So let's just do that. We'll see where that places the bun. So we place our hamburger, we place our bun, we place our hamburger, we click on the top, and you can see it's kind of high up in the air. So like I said, we might actually use gravity to make sure everything sinks into place. And my thought is that, like I said, clicking on the bun would be your completion. So in other words, you couldn't do anything to this after that point. That's it. You've created your hamburger. You can no longer make any modifications to it. So that's really half of the functionality. The other is the ability to generate orders, have people show up and say what they want, to be able to compare what you're handing them to what they've ordered and come up with some kind of compensation system. So they're paying you and that there's a timer, and if you do it within the first half of the time period, you get a full tip. If you do it, the later half, then your tip gets diminished, that kind of thing. And then, of course, there's the purchasing of more equipment. I don't know if I'm going to go that far. It all depends what you guys want to see. So I think that should just about do it. So I think the next one, just to take care of all the toppings, we'll do the ketchup next, because right now the ketchup doesn't work, but the functionality would be almost identical to this, where I'll import, like, say, a ketchup dispenser, and what will happen is you click on it, a new variable that says place ketchup will be set to yes, and then when you click on the hamburger, the ketchup appears, that kind of thing. So the functionality is almost identical to the cheese, it's just that it will place a ketchup model rather than a cheese model. Okay, so I think that should do it.